Okay. I wanted to wait till I seen some numbers saying some people might be in here before I started talking about what I want to talk about today. Recently, we had a report out of Florida of an attempt to pollute the water. Okay. Basically, an attempt to put bacteria or poison in the water on the people in Florida. Okay. Then we got reports out here about the sewage and floods and sewage backing up into your tap water and you drinking toxic, toxic water. We all know that third world countries don't have unclean water. With an unclean water, you get sick and it'll kill you. You cannot drink unclean water. Anybody with common sense knows this. Bacteria can get into water, and if bacteria gets into water that's being pumped out of an aquifer, and your water isn't being tested and chlorinated, you'll have to boil the water to kill the bacteria or you will get sick and it can kill you. It's as simple as that. But let me explain some things to you, okay? Because this is something that I know about very well. See, I did remodels for years. You know, so what does that have to do with anything? Well, have you plumbed a house? Drain lines into the sewage pipes out of the street or into a septic system and a leach field? Have you plumbed the water system in a house from the beginning to the end? I have. And I understand they're two different systems. You can't have an overflow of sewage get into your tap water. Okay? Now, if you get an overflow of sewage, most likely it's not ever going to get into the aquifer unless it's massive amounts. You would have to have massive amounts of sewage to saturate the ground over an aquifer that's being used. Then that sewage water could definitely go into the water in the aquifer under the ground, which was being pumped to the city in a spot where before it goes out to the public, where it's being filtered and it's being tested. And whenever they find a bacteria in it, they put chlorine in it. They put chemicals in your water. Yes, they do. Just like in a swimming pool. How many of you people been in a public pool and you see kids in there and you end up swallowing some of that water? You don't mean to, but it happens now and again. And you're out there swimming in that water and blah, blah. What do you think protects you from the bacteria? The HP and the chlorine that's put in the water is what protects you. It's the same thing with your city water that comes out your tap. Now, there's only one way your water coming to your home could be contaminated because it was allowed to happen. That's right. There is no cover up. You cannot have sewage flood that comes out your faucet in your house. That's not the way it works. But see, they know that most people would have no idea of this. The people who would have an idea of this is going to be the plumbers and your cities. You know, and if a plumber come up and told you this is not possible, you would just, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist because my TV told me so. Without knowing a fucking thing about the system. First off, all of your drain lines, okay, if you got a drain line out of your house, you put it, let's just say you have your own septic system and you have a leach field. You dig up the ground, you put a bunch of rock down, and you fucking make big rock to small rock, and you cover it up, and you put a pipe in there at the, a pipe right in there towards the top, up the middle of the rocks, okay, out of your septic tank, and that goes into your septic tank, which you also dig a hole in the ground, okay? You take another pipe out of the opposite side of your septic tank towards the top of the septic tank, and the one that's towards the So they're both sort of towards the top, but not quite to the top. One's going to come out one side, and you're going to run that underneath the ground you're putting your house on. That's your drain line. That's where your sinks, your faucet, your toilet are going to drain to. And they're going to go down that line, that pipe that you put in the ground. They're going to go into your septic tank. It's going to fill up, and you're going to use a chemical you buy called Rid-X. Rid-X, okay? And that Rid-X is going to kill the bacteria in the system, and the leach field with the Rid-X is going to allow the bacteria and your feces from your body to dissipate into the ground cleanly. Now that this water gets into an aquifer, it's already been treated. That's what the Rid-X does. If you don't use Rid-X, after enough time goes by, the bacteria builds up, the feces builds up because it don't break down, and your leach system will fail and it'll start backing up into your house. Okay? That's the way a septic system works. And then you'd have to dig up the leach field, and you'd have to completely pull it out, and put all new rock and stuff in and start all over again. And you'd have to clean out the septic tank, and then you'd have to, after you drained the septic tank and redid the leach field, then you'd put some chemicals in, and then you would be up and going again, okay? Now let's go to city sewage. Cities run pipes underneath the ground, and they branch out to everybody's house. All of your drain lines gone, your toilet, your tub, your shower, your faucets all go into that line. Goes out, and they got pumps periodically throughout the lines, and it's directed to a city sewage treatment plant. That's where all the feces goes. That's where all the sewage water goes. That's where all of your wastewater from your kitchen sink, when you're running it, when you did dishes or whatever, and you did your laundry, that's where all that water goes. It goes through them drain pipes out and down to the sewage treatment plant. Now your water that you're drinking, that comes from pumps out of water wells, aquifers, best known as aquifers. Well, that is pumped directly through a building the cities, your towns have control over, and they have a port in that line that they can literally add compounds, add chemicals to the waters that's being pumped into the building, and they got people that's supposed to be testing this water periodically all the time. Okay? What do they test it for? They test it for bacteria. They test it for contamination. And if they get any contamination or bacteria out of an aquifer that's coming through there, they see it in the test, and they add the chemicals, pH and chlorine, just like in the pools, to the water. Because it kills the bacteria, and these pumps are pumping into the water lines that come out of the street where your water meter is, or your water meter can be in your basement or attached to your house. And these lines are on pumps run by the city, and the water is pumped to your home. If the pumps ever all went down, all electricity went down, the pumps to the house will stay running because they're on backup generators. But if no electricity ever came back up, then pumps would eventually quit working, and you'd have no running water to your house, period. But you're not going to have sewage in your water that's coming out your faucet to poison you. You're not going to have bacteria to come out your faucet to poison you unless it's deliberately done. That's right, deliberately done, because that means somebody's failing to test the water at your city where you're getting your water from, and they're failing to put the pH and the chlorine in the water. That's what that means. Most people don't realize this. So I figured I better come up here and I better straighten this fucking BS that's running around the web. I better give you an education on the stuff that I know is factual. Okay? And to give you an understanding of how these things work. The sewage is one system, the water is another system. If I was plumbing a house, which I've done hundreds and hundreds of times in my life, and I had to have the city inspector come down, which has already happened to me several times, okay? I plumbed in I ripped all the plumbing out, and I replumbed the entire house. No lie, when I was doing remodels. After I get all of my drain lines in, I have to cap it and I have to fill the drain lines full of water. I'm not allowed to hook it to the sewage to go into the street. I have to cap the line right there. Then I have to do the rest of my plumbing for my drains, and then I have to fill them up with buckets of water. I just start pouring water into the drain lines so they're all full. Why do you do that? Well, because city inspector comes out and inspects to make sure the water is standing for more than 5 minutes in the pipes without draining. They don't want no leaks in your sewage lines. That's right. So the sewage stands up. How many of you people ever had your main drain back up in your house? Your water comes through the lowest point. If you don't have a basement, it comes up through your tub. If you have a basement with a drain in the floor, it'll come up through the drain. It comes to the lowest point. If your main line gets backed up or the city's main sewage lines gets backed up, you will have sewage in your basement or sewage coming up out of your tub. Okay? Because all the lines are standing full of water. Why are they standing full of water? Because they don't want them leaking. But you have reports going all over the internet about the sewage flooding and backing up and getting into your water that's coming into your home. Well, these are fraudulent reports. These are not telling you how the systems work. They're not telling you the processes. They're not telling you they're two separate systems. Do you think an automobile runs down the street just because of the motor? No. The motor has systems too. It sure does. You put your gasoline in the tank and a pump pumps it to the motor. Injectors nowadays, instead of carburetors, inject it into the cylinder walls. That's okay, so you have a fuel pump and a gas tank and lines pumping gas to a motor. You have injectors that take the gas and inject it into the cylinder walls. Then you have an electrical system that fires that gas, causing an expansion. You could call it an explosion, but it's not really an explosion. And that's what the force of that expansion from that ignition, like lighting a firecracker or a bomb, that's what drives your cylinder down. And when you do it in order like this, it's not enough to hurt the pistons. It forces the piston to go downward. And the next one over, by the shape of the crankshaft, when that fires, it causes the piston next to it to come up while that one goes down. This is where your timing comes from. The timing of your pistons going up and down, up and down. When you get the timing right, then continuous fuse shooting in, electricity igniting it, and every single cylinder in an order will cause the pistons to go up and down, up and down, up and down, turning the crankshaft, and that's where you get your drive from that turns your wheels, that turns your transmission. It's all a system. Now, how would I know all this? Well, because I've had a very lengthy life. You know, I didn't like sports when I was growing up as a kid. Nope. I didn't get into basketball. I didn't get into baseball. I didn't get into anything. I think the only thing I ever liked doing was ping pong. That was about it. Every now and again, shoot pool. But that was only now and again shit, okay? My real hobby was tearing things apart and seeing what makes them work. And putting them back together again and seeing if I can make it work. When I was a kid, we had record players yet. There was no such thing as CDs. There wasn't no 8-tracks or cassettes. There was records. I tore a record player completely apart, took everything out of it, gutted it. Just had a frame in my hand, put it back together again, and made it work. This is what I got off. I love doing this shit. So I would tear stuff apart, put it back together, pay attention, not come apart, put it back together again, see if I can make it work. I did this over and over when I was a kid. Okay? Then as I grew up, I went to automotive school and I became a mechanic. And I worked on vehicles and I drove for a cab company for 4.5 years and I kept their vehicles going. I was their mechanic and a driver. Okay? And then I got out of that. I got tired of being out in the cold and the snow and the freezing. You steal tools and you think you could put on a pair of gloves to work with, and they can't. Tight spots, try to stick your hand down there with a glove on. Ha ha ha! You'll see how that will go. Boy. You'll be losing the glove. Okay? Yeah, you will. You get used to lots of knuckle busters. You get used to frostbit hands because you're not in a warm garage where you can work on the car. Okay? And I was out there fixing cars in the middle of the cold and the snow for these damn cabs and blah, blah, blah. And I got tired of that crap, so I changed careers. This is where I got into remodels. And I had a really good work partner, okay? Knew what he was doing, who taught me a lot of stuff over the years. This guy was certified AC tech, an HVAC tech, and he also worked with an electrician who was a family member, okay? He was really fucking good. He had electric, he was good. Well, he was my mentor. He was my trainer. Worked with him for a long time. I learned a lot of trade skills from him. And I branched off on my own for my trade skills, and I get jobs out, and I got jobs out in Florida by word of mouth. I didn't look for a job; they came to me. No lie, man. I had the jobs coming to me by word of mouth because of my work. I was always a perfectionist about making sure the job was done right. So I totally understand your sewage system. A toilet has a P-trap built into it that keeps the sewage gases from coming into your house. Underneath the bathtub is a P-trap, just like you find underneath your kitchen sink. It's called a P-trap. It always holds some water in it, which keeps the sewage from backing into your house, the gases. That's what keeps the sewage gases out of your house to begin with. Your toilet automatically has a P-trap built into it, and all of your sinks have P-traps under them. Most people don't realize this, do they? You can't see the P-trap under your bathtub, now can you? Or under your shower drain, now can you? That's right, because that P-trap's underneath it where you can't see it. But if you open up your covers for your kitchen sink or you look under your bathroom sink, you'll clearly see the P-trap sitting there. Then you have a vent stack that comes out the roof that gives you ventilation. It ventilates the sewage system so that you get some air, so that you get flow of the water, okay, going down the line. That's what that's really all about. If you don't have a clean out in a drain, and there's no clean out outside, and you have a main line blocked, you will carry this heavy fucking industrial snake up a ladder onto the roof. And you will go over to the sewage vent pipe coming out of the roof, and you will drop that snake down that pipe, and you will keep going. This is what you do when there's no clean out, the sewage pipe out in your yard or in your house. You go to the roof and you drop the snake down the vent pipe, and you go right into the main drain line for the sewage, and you unplug the plug. Of course, unless it's a tree, a root went through a pipe underneath the ground. Well, now you're out there with a backhoe digging up the sewage line and cutting the tree out of it and replacing pipe. Believe me, I've been down this road many times in my life. But I'm watching all these reports running around YouTube, and I've seen the report about somebody trying to blah, 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 caught trying to, contaminate the water, drinking water in Florida, blah, blah, blah shit, okay? I'm seeing people talking about the sewage overflowing, and now the sewage water is coming out your faucet. Well, that's impossible. It's not impossible for you to have leaky sewage lines under the ground now. You can have leaky sewage lines under the ground, but man, you'd have to have a lot of sewage to saturate the ground enough to get into the aquifer. Yeah, they left that part out too, didn't they? Then they didn't tell you about the part of the sewage did get into the water aquifer. All the water that comes out to your home in your cities, okay? We're not talking about property where you have your own well dug. If you have your own well dug, my suggestion is you better learn. You better go school yourself on how to test your water and what to look for. And you better have a chart. You better be testing your water out of your aquifer off and on. If you don't, you might get sick as a dog, because if your water gets contaminated, you're not going to know it. The city, however, who you pay money to for your water bill every month, their job is where all the water comes in that goes out to the houses. How do you think they added fluoride to your water? Why do you think you got fluoride, which is a waste product off of the manufacturing of aluminum, which is poisonous to us, that was used in Nazi Germany to dump people down to make them docile? And fluoride is a compound, it's a waste compound off the manufacturing of aluminum. It's not meant to be in your body. But you have cities pouring fluoride into your water. How do they get it in your water to come out your faucet? Because they pump from the water aquifer, several pumps, more than one aquifer come into one location where they have a port opening where they can access the water that's coming through the pumps from the aquifer to test the water. And they add the pH and the fluoride to the water whenever they find a bacteria. They add fluoride when they shouldn't even be adding fluoride, but that's automatically put into your system, okay? That's why your water has fluoride in it. But I figured I better come up here and I better break some of this down for people, because you don't understand that you cannot have a flood of sewage that would get into your aquifer unless it's virtually man done. You would have to have a major break in a sewage line that was over an aquifer for that to even get into the aquifer. And even if it gets into the water aquifer, you would have to have man failing to do their job for you to be contaminated by that water. So if you ever get contaminated water in your house from the city, it's because somebody didn't do their job, people. Or somebody followed their orders for the tool, for their job, for money. And they were told not to test that water no more, and they didn't test it no more. And then you got this situation here. You notice, all summer long we had half the United States on fire. Now, winter time's here, and we got all these snowstorms happening all over the place. One right after another. Blizzard on back of a blizzard. I know, I'm living in it, okay? And the snow's piling up and piling up and piling up. I'm willing to put a little money on it because I know this is weather warfare, silent weapons being used, okay, to create this crap. They're going to keep flooding us with snow, and then when spring gets here and the melt off starts happening and the rain comes, they're probably going to have storm after storm after storm. Some of the storms with heavy downpours, on top of the massive amount of snow melting. And they could even spit off tornadoes, okay? So they can give you more devastation. They can tear up towns with tornadoes. They can flood towns. How are we going to flood them? Well, if you got 2-3 foot of snow sitting on your ground and you're out there where I'm at, and you got the Mississippi River right there in your town, and you get tons and tons and tons and tons of snow, as that snow melts off in the winter, and then you have rainstorm after rainstorm, well, we all know what that leads to. Flooding. And when you get flooding, well, you can have bacteria in the water that floods you. Well, when you have something like that going on, now you have water that can get into the aquifers that have bacteria in it. And if the city don't do their job, your water will become contaminated. See, your cities is what makes your water not become contaminated. But now if you're on private property and you have a water well, and you have some river or something that floods your property, you better know how to test your water. Because when that flood's over and you go fucking get your pump replaced or whatever and start pumping out of your aquifer, there's a good chance it's now contaminated. That's right. That's why I came back up here today, because you need to really understand. Understand the drainage system, the sewage system is one system. It's not hooked to your water system. The water pipes coming into your home are not hooked to your sewage system. Your sewage has no way of getting in them water lines. No way. So only one way sewage could ever get into your water coming out of your faucet. It would have to contaminate your aquifer. And then somebody from the city would have to not be doing their job. So just remember this, okay? Yes, there's openings or spots where people could drop fucking shit into the public water. But if the city's doing their job, any pipes that go out to all the water in the entire city all go through one area. And if the city's doing their jobs, they're testing that water, they're testing this water and from all of these aquifers over and over again every day. When they find something that should not be there, starts showing up in the water, they drop pH and chlorine in the water. Same thing that's in a swimming pool. Because it kills the bacteria, which keeps your water clean and safe for you to drink or safe for you to cook with. When you hear them say boiling your water, it's because, you know, if you had a private property with your own well into an aquifer, you could end up having to boil your water all the time to kill the bacteria before you ever used it to cook or drink. And you want to be careful because there's some bacteria in water that can actually go through the pores of your skin. And you could get sick as fucking shit just from fucking bathing in it. So you really want to be careful. But I wanted to bring this stuff up because I felt this is something that needs to be talked about. You need to understand that the sewage system is one system within itself. Your water pipes that give you your cold and hot water are a whole nother system. Your hot water is its own system. Your cold water is its own system. If I was plumbing a house, I would bring my main line, water line, into the yard from where this water meter is, where the city hooks it up, and I would bring it up out of the ground into your home. I would take that flow of water coming from the city and I would branch off that and I would run a line to every single bathroom in your house. If you had two bathrooms, each bathroom had to have maybe a shower, bathtub, and toilet. So I would put 3 connections for cold water in there. And I would get all of your cold water plumbed into the house everywhere you're going to have it, your kitchen and your bathrooms. And then I would turn around and I would put in a water heater, and then I would start all over again. And I would tee off the cold water line coming out of the beings that you brought into the house, bringing it over to the water heater, filling up the water heater with water. Then it heats up, and then the water coming out of the water heater would be now plumbed to every spot you plumbed in the house, your bathrooms and your sink in the kitchen. And this is where you get your hot water from. See, 2 different systems again. The hot water's on its own lines. And the cold water's on its own lines. And the sewage is on its own lines. And the sewage has to be tested. You can't even, after you plumb a house, you're not allowed to put no toilets in, no bathtubs in, no sinks in, no nothing. You have to cap the main line that you would hook to the city's sewage or to the septic tank. You have to cap it so it can't go into it. And you have to fill up all of your lines full of water. And you got to leave it stand there until your city inspector comes, and he's going to stand there and make sure it don't drop level within 5 minutes. Then he's going to sign it off. Now you got permission to move on to the next step. Now you can install your bathtub, and you can install your faucets, and you can install your vanities, your vanities in your bathrooms and your toilets, and on and on. Okay? Everything is done in steps. If I frame a room, 2x4 frame a room, after I frame the room out, I got to stop. I'm not allowed to go any further. I have to wait for the city inspector to come again and inspect my framework. If I frame a roof and I frame a wall in a room, I got to stop. I can't cover the roof. I can't put my fucking pile of wood on the roof. I can't do anything. I got to stop again. I got to wait for the city inspector to come and inspect my job to pass it by the codes that they've done. If I run the plumbing, I have to wait. If I run the electrical, I have to wait. Everything is done in steps. And when you're doing a remodel, you always have to think 2 steps ahead of yourself. Always. If you don't think 2 steps ahead of yourself, you're going to fuck up and you're going to end up tearing things back out to redo it because you messed up. Yeah, well, this don't surprise me when you're talking about superstorms, the one that we had down here where I'm at. Now, that was a superstorm, all right. That son of a bitch took fucking, oh, yes. But you better understand this is weather warfare. That's what's really going on. You're witnessing weather warfare. See, have you ever heard the saying, and Monograph even talked about this a lot. Yeah, a lot of other people saying it. As above, as below, or as below is as above. Well, see, weather warfare started off with above, spraying chemicals seeding the clouds. Then technology came up for heating the atmosphere, and that's what HAARP was. Then they took the HAARP technology and they put it into the satellites. Now they use the satellites to heat the upper atmosphere, not so much HAARP anymore. They're using the satellites. Now they can actually use HAARP and they can use the satellites and they can really control the weather. They can create whatever they want. Then they'll just tell you it's global warming. That's what they'll do. Well, it's not global warming at all. It's fraud. It's just like the invisible bug, the PCR test. That's the foundation of the entire lie. And it's fraud. Every time they fucking use the PCR test to test you for the invisible bug, they've just committed another case of fraud. Fraud upon fraud upon fraud upon fraud. Then I was looking because somebody came at me today up there in Minnesota, Buffalo, Minnesota. And I laughed at first. Now, I don't think it's funny, but I did laugh, and I'll tell you why I got a laugh out of this. Okay, I'm going to tell you why I got a laugh out of this. Because the medical system is in bed with the Rockefellers. The medical establishment is in bed with the elite. And they all know, well, not all of them, but the upper echelons, who run the medical system, all know that the invisible enemy is fraud. They all know this is fakery. It's to bring in their NWO. It's Agenda 21. It's the Fourth Industrial Revolution. None of this stuff is lies. This is all factual. This is real. It's as real as you getting in a vehicle and going across town. It's all linked together. But the reality is the PCR test itself is fraud. To use it as fraud. Conveniently, the creator of the test dies in 2019, supposedly from pneumonia when he was in good health. Then behind the creator of the test who told the public openly it can never be used to test for any kind of pathogen or virus. It was never designed for that, cannot be used for that, and if it was ever tried to be used for that, he'd give you tons of false readings, false positives. And we just say, oh, you tested positive, we'll leave the false out. Oh, you tested negative, we left the false out. Because we're using a test that can't diagnose a virus or pathogen to do exactly that. That's fraud. That is fraud. Open fraud in your face, okay? And you have doctors that know full well all over the world because they learned it in medical school that the diaper on your face don't protect you from nothing. And they know it too. But when they speak up and say it, what do? We censor them. We shut them up. That's right, because we're selling you a lie. We can't have somebody come along and tell you the truth. No, we want you to believe the lie. That's what's been going on all along. Fakery and lies, fakery and lies. Fear porn, fakery and lies. Fear porn, fakery and lies. That's what's going on. And what do? As a people worldwide, we sit around and we do nothing about it. We just sit here and let it happen over and over and over and over again. You want to complain about the results of your society, but you can go look in the mirror. Yeah, like here in the manosphere, you can go look in the mirror, your problems. The majority of all our problems was given to us by your owners. That's right. You're all going to stay divided. And because you love your division, you're just going to love your death too. Because that's what comes with divide and conquer. It's like the game. Yeah. All games come to an end. Nobody likes endgame because endgame is the end. You get dead. And unfortunately, that's where we're headed. As much as I don't like to say this to people, that's exactly where we're headed. But be careful because I see them creating all kinds of floods this year for spring. Okay, I see what they're doing. They're failing to keep up routine maintenance on electric systems. Yeah, they sure are. My town's a great example of that. The town I'm in that I grew up in is a great example of that. We got trees everywhere. We have electric lines running through trees everywhere. And that is a big no-no. For many years, I've watched electric companies with crews out there in the summertime trimming trees away from lines. I don't think this town has trimmed trees away from the lines in probably about 5 years. No lie. No lie. Okay, failing to keep up with the routine maintenance. I went and said something about it, and then I was given a number and told the city don't take care of that the electric company does. And so I got a hold of the electric company and I freaking said something to them about it, and they played dumb. That's right, they played dumb with me, and they never sent anybody out to look. Of course not. You know why they played dumb? Because it's deliberate. So if you ever get contaminated water out of your faucet and you're not on your own well, that means somebody needs prosecuted for not doing their job. And if you're being told not to do it or you're going to be fired, the person who gave that order should be in jail immediately. You cannot get sewage coming through your sink or contaminated water coming through your sink from the city unless it's deliberately done. End of story. Doesn't matter what report they tell you. Understand the system. Understand how it works, where your water comes from that's coming out your tap. Understand where your water that goes down the drain and your toilet you flush, where it goes. Understand the systems. If you understand the systems, then you'll know that they're telling you lies. I guess it's what everybody likes to do nowadays, lie. Then lie some more, then lie some more. Pow another lie on top of another lie, and pow another lie on top of another lie, and pow another lie on top of another lie. I see floods happening this spring, I really do. I'm wondering if the dike that they built in this town years ago, because this town used to get flooded all the time for that damn river. Every time we had a fucking heavy winter, good spring, we got flooded. So they built this really high dike. They called it a dike, which held the water back. And they built it really high, and then they put a road on it. Then that way, they haven't been flooded since, okay? Because it's holding the water back. I'm wondering if they can make enough water to make it come over the top of that. Because if they do, this town will be in trouble. Then if that dike lets go because all the water's coming over the top of it, oh, we'll really be in trouble. We'll be underwater in this town for sure, man. Then we'll have contaminated water for sure. But if the city's doing their job, then they'll be in there, blah, 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 and there'll be a boil order on all of your water out of your faucets, and they'll be fucking in there afterwards, cleaning up the mess from the flood, and they'll be fucking using lots of pH and lots of chlorine. Yeah, lots of pH and lots of chlorine. Lots of chemistry tests. I used to test the water at the swimming pool at Holiday Inn Express, the Holiday Inn in Tarpon Springs. Remember, I was the maintenance guy. And Like in Tarpon Springs, my first thing on my ship, the first thing I had to do was go out and clean the pool, clean the spa. Then I had to test the water, and if it needed any pH or fluoride, I had to add it. And then I had to retest it, make sure the levels were correct. That took a while. Okay? That takes a while to do that. You know, you're talking a couple hours, sometimes 3 hours. Just on one swimming pool and one small spa. You'll spend 2-3 hours depending on everything you do on that spa and then testing the water. And adding chlorine and adding the pH to the water. Because you have to get the chemistry level right so that it kills any bacteria. That's why you're safe to go swim in a public swimming pool. How many of you people been in an ocean before, swimming in the ocean, and you wound up tasting some salt water? It didn't taste very good, did it? You been in your swimming pool swimming when you were a kid, you wound up drinking or tasting, not deliberately, but you got a little bit of water you ingested. Well, if that little dinky bit of water you ingested had the wrong bacteria in it, you could wind up dead. You could wind up very sick. Yeah, with major abdominal pains, kidney failure. Yeah, it can kill you. Contaminated water is very dangerous. So you see, I used a picture of a P-trap underneath the sink. That's your drain line. Then you see the two water lines coming out of the wall. One's the hot side, one's the cold side. Yeah, I know, I've plumbed many homes in my time. I know right what I'm looking at. I know right what that P-trap does. I know without that P-trap, you'd have sewage gases in your house. That P-trap, that round piece of pipe right there, the one that does the roundness and goes back up, goes down and back up, that's your P-trap. It's the water that stands in the bottom of that when water's not going through it that keeps the gases out of your house. The only spot you don't need a P-trap in a home is where a toilet's at, because the toilet has a P-trap automatically built into the toilet itself. So gases from the sewage cannot, hooked to the open sewage line, cannot come up into your home. But you know, you got people out here telling you and reading reports to you and telling you BS because they don't understand the system. And they're believing these things can happen this way, and that's not reality, that's not the truth. It's not the truth at all. If you're on your own property and got your own water well and you get contaminated water from a flood or a bacteria that gets in your water, and you're not boiling your water and you're not putting pH and chlorine in your water and know how to test your water before you comes to your house from your well, you know, if you don't make a spot from your well you're pumping out of to be able to add this stuff to your water, you couldn't essentially, you'd be in worse shape because you could get a bacteria, not know you have a bacteria and get dead just out of your own water well. See, you got to understand that the aquifer is clean, fresh water filtered by the earth. It's a renewable energy. You're not running out of water. Don't even go there. This planet's 3/4 water, and this planet's in such a design that even the ocean water that travels underneath becomes filtered by the earth, naturally filters it. And there's where you get your aquifers from. So it's renewable, okay? And your aquifers, okay, are fresh, clean drinking water, but they can become contaminated. Yes, they can. This is the reason you have to do tests. This is the reason the cities are set up the way they're set up, so that they do the test on the water regularly and they add the fucking chemicals that need to be added to kill bacteria so that you don't become sick off of what you added at all. I'm going to put a couple of links once this live stream goes up in the more, and I would suggest that you take the time to watch them. Okay? Deborah Tavares has been telling a whole lot of truth. But there's some things she says that I already know she's saying it because she's reading it off a document, and these are people that are lying to people and they're not telling people the 100% truth, and she's reporting that. And when she reports that the sewage system is going to flood into your drinking water, she obviously don't understand the systems, okay? She's not deliberately trying to lie to you, but she's not a plumber. She don't understand that there's separate systems and the sewage can't run into your damn drinking water. There's only one way sewage is going to get your drinking water. You better have a huge flood of sewage that's soaked into the ground and went into your aquifer, went into your clean water, contaminating the water that you were pumping into your house. You're not going to get it from out your tap if you're living in a city or a town that you got pumped water to your house and you pay a water bill. If that city's doing their job, then they fucking got people down there testing that water every day. That's right, they're testing that water all the time. And adding pH and chlorine whenever they have to. That's what keeps you safe. So if you ever get contaminated water out your faucet and you're on city water, you better remember it was deliberately done. Because there's no way it can happen if people were doing their fucking job. But if they're doing their job and accepting money and they're told not to test the water, do not add these chemicals to water, and bacteria goes through and you get sick from it. It's the city that done this to you. It's your town who done this to you. It's not no accident. No, it's not. Don't even believe the lie that it's an accident, because it's not. It's impossible. It can't be an accident. Now, it could be an accident if you have your own well and you got your own pump and you're pumping water in your house. You could not understand that you have to test your water. You could not understand if you fail to test your water and your aquifer gets contaminated, you're going to be drinking something that may just send you to the hospital and put you out. So, that's why I said I'm going to put a couple of links in the more to this video, and you really should watch them. Okay? You're going to get a story about in Canada where a town that one of the pumps was down and a bacteria was in the aquifer and it went into people's houses and people were cooking it using water and they were getting sick up the ass and killed like 7 people. Yeah. Before they actually found the cause, and then they found out that somebody wasn't doing their job and they were writing fakery on the report. In other words, their chart for testing the water. Yeah. They wrote it down like they tested it when they wasn't testing it. Wrote it down like they were testing it when they wasn't testing it. They didn't fix a pump that needed fixed. That's right. See, failure to do their job that they're being paid to do cost 7 deaths and got lots and lots of people sick. Well, that's the only way you're going to get contaminated by your water, is if it's deliberately done. So if you're in a city or town, regardless of where you're at, you got water pumped for your house and you got a kitchen sink spilling out water, that water should be safe for you to cook and drink with. Okay? If it's not safe, it's because somebody's not doing their job. It's deliberately done. It's man created. That's the main reason I done this live stream this morning, is because I want you to understand how the systems work. So that you can understand that if something like this takes place, that you understand it's not an accident. No, there's no accident about it. Well, building a 2,000 foot square house is a lot of damn work, but it doesn't matter. The plumbing and the sewage is still all the same. You're either going to have a septic system on your property or you're going to have sewage from the city. You're either going to have a well and pump water to your house, or you're going to have water line from the city who's pumping water to your house. If you have a septic system and a well, then it's your job to test your water. It's your job to use the Riddics in your sewage system so that you don't back up and plug up. Okay? To keep your leach field working properly, you have to use that Ridix. Okay? If you don't use it, you're going to have a leach system that's going to become all decayed with freaking bacteria in your feces. It's not going to die out and go away because you didn't use no Ridix. Ridix is a chemical that's designed for just that reason. As long as you keep Ridix in your system once a month, you shouldn't have problems, man. That leach field will last for years. How do you think your water is filtered by the earth? Same thing. It's a leach system. The leach system underneath the ground filters the water. The water is filtered by the earth. Then they bring it up to the city when their city's pumping you water into one spot, and then they filter that water as it's coming out of the aquifer. So it's going through filters, and then they change them filters routinely, okay, on a regular basis, keeping clean filters in. And they do chemistry testing that water every day, every day, every day, every day, every day, every day, all the time. And they add pH and they add chlorine when they have to kill bacteria that would show up in the test. They keep the levels at a certain level. It comes out to the public, so therefore it's safe to use for cooking or drinking. So just remember, contaminated water, if you're on a city system, was deliberately done because it can't get to your house without your faucet contaminated if somebody's doing their job. And if they're anything like the electric companies that failed to keep up the routine maintenance, they fail to start testing your water and they fail to start adding what's needed, yeah, then you can become sick. But sewage cannot just back up and flood into your main drinking water. And this is something I've been hearing people talking about all the time. The power's going to go out, and the sewage is going to back up and come into your water, and you're going to be having your sewage come out your kitchen faucet, and it's going to be contaminated water. Crock of shit. No, you're not. If that sewage backs up, it's going to be in your basement. It's going to, if you ain't got a basement, it's going to be in your bathtub. It's going to be in your house, and you're going to know it's there because you can't flush your toilet, you can't run your sink. And if it backs up too much, it might even start flooding you, man. You may be in there trying to fucking get the hell out of here, man. Oh, this place is going to stink. Okay, that's what it'll be. It won't be coming out your kitchen faucet. This coming out your kitchen faucet, well, then that means the aquifer got contaminated, and the city's not doing their fucking job. That's all that means. And then responsibility comes back onto the person who's not doing their fucking job. And if they're paying you not to do your job, I don't give a shit. You're going to collect the goddamn tool to poison people and kill people, you deserve to be taken out yourself. So that's the main reason I came back up today, this week, because I'm tired of seeing these people that don't understand the systems telling people this fucking shit that's not true. You know why they're doing that? Because they want to justify it so you don't understand the system, and then when they fucking do something to the water system and bacteria's in you coming out your faucet, they can just parrot the lie. And you'll believe them. No, don't believe them. Yeah, your basement floor could be covered in turds and urine water. If the main sewage line going out to the city gets backed up, it's going to come through the lowest opening. The lowest opening would be your basement. If you don't have a basement, your lowest opening is going to be your bathtub. Your toilet will only let so much come up and it'll just fucking rise in the bathtub. And if it kept fucking getting more and more in it, it would just rise and rise, okay? So yeah, you could be really knee high in shit water there. I mean, I'm telling you, you could really be in trouble in that one, okay? Because the sewage lines are literally leak tested. You have to be able to hold water without it leaking out of that pipe. No lie, that's tested, that's inspected. So that's where we come from on this one, and the reality is the reality, man. I know these systems. I plumbed enough houses and enough fucking fixed enough plumbing in my life doing fucking maintenance. No, I know these systems. I've plumbed entire houses, man. I've added bathrooms where a bathroom wasn't. That's right, toilet, tub, everything. I plumbed it, fucking put it together, fucking finished it, the whole 9 yards. Well, Steve Hoka was on a septic system and they're trying to do away with people's septic systems and charge them money for a main sewer line when he didn't have a main sewer line. That's what the city was doing. It's all about stealing money from the people. That's why Steve Hoka was ranting about the sewage system going down the street. Because all these people in his neighborhood were on septic systems. Now, I don't know about his water. His water may have came from the city. I don't know if he's got his own well or not. I never asked him that question. If he had his own well, then he needs to start testing his own water. If you ain't got your own well and you're fucking coming from the city, then it's supposed to be tested and shit's supposed to be added before it ever gets to you. If you ever get contaminated water out your faucet, you better be looking at the city because it was deliberately done. It doesn't matter what they tell you. The facts are the facts. I'm not going to live in cartoon world where we're living right now. Right now we're living in fantasy land. You got all these fucking zombies out here fucking just parodying shit they know nothing about. Now you got a report out of Florida of somebody trying to fucking blah blah contaminate the water system. Well, that means they would have had to got it. They would have had to know exactly what building all the aquifer pumps are coming into that the city has that goes out to your houses. Okay, that could only happen in one town or one city. It wouldn't be the entire state. If they said they were trying to contaminate the water in the state, that'd be a lie. Yeah, that would. That'd be a lie. You would have to have access to a building where the water pumps actually come in from the aquifers and then goes out to the houses and homes and businesses. So if there was contamination in that water, that means what, somebody got into the city's building? That means they got in there, knew right where they were going and exactly what they were doing. Still be man done. Doesn't matter. Still would be man done. There's no getting around that. You can't get around it. Doesn't matter. Once you understand these systems and how they work and what they do, once you've done the stuff I've done, you would understand it. You cannot go in and do a remodel, rip a house completely apart, or even build a house without inspections. Code enforcement, man, they push these codes on you. You have to have inspections and permission. You got to pay for a building permit. You got to follow the procedures. There's inspections with everything. And they charge money for these inspections. See the money grab, the money grab, the money grab. Mm-hmm. But once you've done this and you understand this stuff and you've done it for a living and you understand it, you know this stuff, and I just get tired of listening to people parodying shit that's never fucking done any plumbing in their life. Don't even know what they're talking about. They're just fucking running their mouth. They haven't the first clue of what they're talking about, but people that don't know this stuff listens to them and then they think, oh no, the sewage is going to overflow into our water and it's going to come out our faucets. No, that's not the way it works. No. So, I mean, the reality is the facts. The facts are the facts. I remodeled homes and businesses for a lot of years. Most of my maintenance jobs was plumbing issues. I've run the drain lines for an entire house more than once. I've run the freaking water lines. One house, we ripped out all the sewage lines in the house, and we freaking ripped out all the water lines in the house, and we revamped the whole house, and we added a room where a room wasn't. We done this and done that, me and my partner, and then of course we ran all the sewage lines through the house and out to where we were hooking it. Okay, and then we had to cap it. We had to wait for the inspector from the city to come out and inspect it. Yeah, we had to cap it, not hook it to the main line going out to the septic tank, or it was out of town with the septic tank. Most of the time, that one cabin out there in Ruskin, that was out of town, outside of Sun City in Florida. Okay, which is also Ruskin, one and the same. But anyhow, that place there, yeah, we capped the damn sewage lines and filled them up with water, and then had to wait for the inspector to show up and stand there 5 minutes making sure it didn't go down. And once he saw that, then he'd sign off, and then you could move on to the next step. When we were done with all of our carpentry, framing this and framing that, we would call and we'd have to have the carpentry, the framing work inspected. Then you'd do the plumbing through the house. Then you got to stop again before you put any faucets in, and that has to be inspected. Then you install all your faucets, and you have to put in exactly what they're telling you to put in, and that has to be inspected. See, these idiots got every single step of fucking doing something from building a house to a remodel down pat. Remodel, if it's something you already own, you get a few breaks. But if you open something up and rip something out that they changed the code on, the minute you rip it out, you got to bring it up to code. That's right. The minute you take it out of there, you got to bring it up to code. If you can fix what's already there, you're allowed to do that. Okay, that's not against anything. But if you can't fix it, let's say it's a bathroom faucet that needs to be changed, and you want to change it out because you can't get the parts for it no more. Now you got to bring it up to code. Or they'll charge you money. They call it a fine. And they'll make you rip it back out and do it again. It's just the way it is, man. Every single step of a home being built, every single step of a remodel, if it's legitimately being done, has inspections. Okay, and you're not going to get around these inspections because you can get around them, but then if you get caught, you're going to be fined big time. They can make you tear a place down, man. They'll send the thugs with badges on their shirts and a piece of paper from a court. These cars with bubble gummy fucking flashers on them, and they wear a uniform with a badge and they got guns on their hips and they have a piece of paper from a court. Yeah, this is the kind of shit you'll get into. And I'm not trying to be an ass about that. It's just a reality, okay? I don't agree with a lot of it, but who am I, man? I'm a nobody. But when I'm sitting here watching this stuff and I seen the report come out of Florida of somebody trying to fucking contaminate the water in Florida, okay, you better remember it's not the state of Florida. See the misconception there? We're contaminating the water in Florida. Well, we tried. Well, first off, you can't contaminate the water in the whole state. You can only contaminate it in one town or one city. Okay, that had water running to everybody's house, and if you were to contaminate it there, you'd have to have access to the water that's coming to the place. Okay, and you still couldn't contaminate it to get to the people's houses if somebody was doing their job because the water before it ever hits the pipes that's coming to your home is constantly tested over and over and over to prevent you from getting bacteria, to prevent you from getting sick off your water. So don't listen to these fools. These fools not know what they talk about. I can't blame certain people. If you're reading documentation off of NASA, NASA documents, NASA war documents, or you're reading United Nations, Agenda 21, Agenda 2030. If you're on FEMA's website, or if you're on anything like this, okay, government websites, and the documentation's out here, they're telling you what they're doing. They also lie their butts off to you. Though they tell you lots of truth, but they don't tell you whole truth because they're trying to justify a lie. They know you know nothing about it, so therefore they can flip stuff around and upside down and you won't know the difference. That's no lie. You know nothing about it because you don't have that knowledge, because you've never done that for a living. So you lack that knowledge. Then when they tell you this stuff and it's coming from somebody that's supposed to be in a position, then you believe them. Then you go down the rabbit hole believing propaganda lies. Sucks, but it's the evil, sick world we live in, people. It really is. But I'm not going to stay up here any longer. I've been up here long enough because I wasn't planning on doing this, but I did want to get up here and I did want to bring up what I'm telling you about the water and your sewage, okay? And you getting sick off of this. So when you see these people on the tubes or the web telling you about the power's going down, the sewage water's going to flood into your drinking water, and you're going to be having sewage come out your kitchen faucet, these people are lying to you. These people are not telling you the truth. It's not that you couldn't get sewage in a water aquifer, because you could. But man, you'd have to have a lot of sewage backing up, and where's that going to be backing up from since all the lines right up to the city's sewage treatment plant are constantly tested and look for leaks. And if they find leaks, they tear up the ground and they fix it. No lie. Fact. Okay? But if they fail to keep up the routine maintenance, well, then you could get leaks. But if you're going to get sewage in the water aquifer, you're going to have a lot of it soak up the ground. I suppose if you get a flood, which could happen this coming spring, the ground will be so saturated and it could be contaminated water right off the Mississippi, right out of the ocean. And it's going to go into your clean, fresh water aquifers. But the city, the town, they're doing their job, is going to catch that in a chemistry test, and they're going to start pumping chlorine and pH in that freaking water to bring it up to where they need it. And they'll continuously do them chemistry tests to get it to where they need it so that you don't get sick. So that your water always comes out safe to be used. But if we fail to do our job, then yeah, you'll have contaminated water. But you won't have it the way they're telling you. No, not at all. It's the problem with this world. People don't want to fucking be honest. Everybody wants to lie. And they play on your ignorance. They really do. Because they know that if you haven't done something for a living and never looked into it, okay, how many people do you know that if they had a broken water line, fix it themselves? How many people do you know that if their sewage backed up in their house, fix it themselves? How many people do you know that have the skills to understand these things? Could you honestly, if I had you in here and I wanted you to run all the drain lines through a home, okay? You're building a brand new house and I want you to run all the drain lines and I want you to run all the water lines. Could you do it? Could you pass the inspection? If you don't know how or don't know anything about it, well, of course you wouldn't be able to do it, right? Of course you wouldn't. And they know this. See, the people that would know what I know, they know I'm telling you the truth. That would be your plumbers. Your plumbers all over this world, somebody that's done what I've done, will tell you what I just told you is the exact honest truth. Yeah, they rely on somebody who took money to lie to you. That's really what they're doing. It's no different than the foundation of the invisible enemy. The foundation is a PCR test that was never designed to ever be able to test for what they're testing it for. Yeah. The foundation of the lie is the PCR test. Test, 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 test. Yep. Lie, 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 lie. Fraud, 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 fraud. Non-stop fraud. Now we have bogus reports of somebody trying to fucking blah, blah, blah the water system in Florida. A lot of people are going to take that to the entire state of Florida. Oh, no, not possible. Just not possible. Sorry. Okay. And if you did contaminate a water system in a town or a city, you would have to be able to know right where the building is, where the city's getting their water from that they're pumping to the homes. You would have to know where it comes in at, where they're adding their fluoride at, yep, where they're doing the testing at, yep, that's right. And that's where you would have to go. So that's why I laugh at people, because people just don't understand. That's the reason I come up here today. I wanted to see if I can get you to understand just a little bit of simple stuff. Simple stuff is a car motor doesn't run without systems. You have a cooling system, which is your radiator, your antifreeze and cool water in it, okay? And it has a water pump that pumps the water, and the block has pores in it that it's just linked right to where the pump pumps the water, and it's only chambers it runs through. It don't run into your gas. It don't run into your oil. Your gasoline's its whole different system. Put a pump on there, put a tank in, fill up the gas, put lines in, and the pump pumps the gas through the lines, brings it up to your motor. Nowadays, your injector puts it in the cylinders. Years ago, it used to be a carburetor and a head, okay? You had your fucking, that's what put the gas in the cylinders, but now it's injectors, okay? You have an electrical system that keeps your battery charged, to get you your electricity to start the starter, that also fires the plugs that ignites the gas. See, different systems. Plumbing a house, you have a drainage system separate of a water system. Your hot water is its own lines. Yes, the cold water line from the main, that cold water faucet you run in your house, goes to the water heater. That what comes out of the water is the water that's heated. And that's a whole different series of lines that goes through the house. See, so you're going to plumb your house twice with your water lines. You're going to put a water heater, you're going to plumb everything out of the water heater to one line that's going to be your hot. You're going to put a piece of red tape around it, and that's your hot, right? And the cold line, you're not going to put no red tape around it at all. You're just going to leave that blank. Now you know which is your cold, you know which is your hot. If I was plumbing a house, I used to carry a roll of electrical tape that was red around with me. I had the black electrical tape too, but I also had red. And people, why'd you have red? Well, because when I'm plumbing a whole house, I would commonly plumb this much of my cold line and this much of my hot line at the same time, and make two runs going at one time to one room. And I always put the red tape around the side that was the hot. So I always knew which was my hot. So when it came time to actually hook up faucets and stuff, I knew which was my hot, I knew which was my cold, okay? Because once it closed the walls up, you can't see the pipes and you're not going to be following them back. Okay, so it's a reality check for you. Just remember, they're all different systems. And it's literally impossible for your sewage, when the pumps will go down, to back up into your running water. That's literally impossible. They're just telling you nonsense, I'm telling you. So anyhow, guys, I'm gonna get on out of here, but that's about what I wanted to say. So understand why I did this live stream, because I don't want you falling down a rabbit hole with these lies. I want you to understand what you're looking at, so when they're lying to you, you can actually see through the lie and know that they're lying. If you ever have contaminated water in a city, You just remember this, that contamination was allowed to happen as a human being behind it that needs to be prosecuted. I don't give a shit if they're following orders or not. Whoever gave the orders needs to be in jail, and whoever carried out the order needs to be in jail. End of story. I give no sympathy to these people who lie to the public and commit terrorism on you and then call you the terrorist while they're the one being the terrorist. I don't play into these games. Sick freaking world we live in where they victimize you. They're the villain. They're the perpetrator. And then they tell everybody you're the perpetrator. And so you get re-victimized. That's exactly what's going on in this world. As far as I'm concerned, drop a bullet in the back of their head and drop them right where they're at. You want to play this game? Well, let's play the game. All games come to an end, and this is called Endgame, bitch. You know, there is a story that came out of Buffalo, Minnesota. This happened yesterday, and I was laughing at it. And I shouldn't be laughing at it, but I was. But I'll tell you why I was laughing at it, okay? Because I'm thinking about everything that's gone down in 2020, and we're in 21 right now, and how involved the medical system and the WHO and the CDC and your medical establishment, how involved they are in this big lie, and how they're all committing fraud and openly know they are for their money, for their tool. So yesterday, in Buffalo, Minnesota, where I was living up in Minnesota, then I moved to Howard Lake, but I was always in Buffalo because that's where everybody worked at, okay? So anyhow, 1 dead and 4 wounded in a shooting at Minnesota Healthcare. I know right where I was at, man. I know right where this is at. I've been in here many times. I used to go here. See the doctor, okay? 67-year-old man accused of killing 1 person and wounding 4 others at a healthcare clinic in Minnesota, city of Buffalo. Was very familiar, okay? Enforcement was upset, okay? The person was upset with the treatment, authorities said Tuesday, okay? Gregory Urch or something like that, Urich, was taken into custody after morning shooting at the Allina Healthcare Clinic in Buffalo. Man, I've been in that clinic so many times, it's part of the hospital. So they went to the Buffalo Hospital at the Allina Clinic Healthcare Center and opened fire, man. And I'm like, well, it appears to me that the Nazis are being shot. Because what did the Nazis do that got them their name in Nazi Germany? You know what they did to get the name of a Nazi? They followed their orders, regardless of knowing it was wrong, for money. Order followers. Well, all of your hospitals and clinics and worldwide right now are full of Nazis. The Nazi, what happened in Nazi Germany is now Nazi Earth. Because the very same thing the Nazis did, now the Nazis have migrated. They're everywhere, man. They're in Germany, they're in freaking London, they're in fucking America, they're all over the world right now. They sure are. Your medical system, because they're all involved in this. They know full well they're committing fraud. For money. They're lying to you for money. So when I seen a guy walk, and I seen this report, and this guy walks into Allina Healthcare up in Buffalo, I know right where it's at, man. I could drive you right to the scene. Okay, no big deal. I was there many times. Okay, and opens fire because they're upset over their treatment. Well, what can I tell you, man? If you want to be a Nazi and you want to help practice eugenics in the name of you trying to help their health, and somebody comes back and shoots your ass, I really can't feel sorry for you. Because you're doing it for the tool, because you absolutely have no care. You don't care as long as you get your tool. I wonder if they cared yesterday when bullets were flying. Now you see why I sort of smirked and laughed at that? I'm not laughing at people that got shot. I'm laughing at the fact that you want to be a Nazi and you want to follow your orders. You know you're doing wrong. You know you're lying. And you know you're doing wrong. But you don't care. No. The only thing you care about is that money, that job. That's all you care about. And then somebody comes in and blows your ass away for, well, genocide. You're trying to kill them, and you're smirking under your breath while you're doing it. You call yourself a doctor. You call yourself an RN. You call yourself a nurse. And you openly give a test that you already know can't test for it. You go along with the lie for your job, to keep your job. You commit fraud every day. You do things because you follow your orders that are hurting other people under the name of good health. Sorry, Nazi. Calling you what you are, man. That's how the Nazis got their name, man. That's where the word Nazi came from, was order followers who will do wrong for money. Well, you earn the label, man. You're a Nazi. So at the Nazi Center up there in Buffalo, Minnesota, I call it the Nazi Center now, Allina Health Clinic, okay, in Buffalo, Minnesota, somebody proceeded to walk in, a 67-year-old man, a boy, okay, walked in and opened fire, killing one person and wounding 4 others. And then they got his picture here, you know. Okay, and of course, we're very familiar with the suspect, he said. There's a history of him being unhappy with health care. Well, how would he not be unhappy? How would he not be unhappy with health care? Because it's never been about health care. It's about suppressing the symptoms and killing you for money. It's about eugenics. Your healthcare system is not here for you and it's not here for me. They're here for money and they're here for eugenics. These doctors was not taught a lot of stuff when they went to school. They were taught exactly what they're supposed to know and only what they're supposed to know. They went in debt big time. They have to pay all this high fucking student loans and costs back for the schooling, for the career that they went to school for so many years for, 7, 8 years, right? Of their life was in college, being dumbed up. Dumbed up, that's right. And of course, they're not allowed to do their job because they have to follow the orders from somebody that didn't go to that school. Mainly a banker. That's right, mainly a banker. You know the 13 families? Yeah. We went back there again, and that's not a conspiracy theory. That's fucking factual. Factual. I've screened this stuff for years, and people want to say how full of shit I am without looking into a damn thing. And the only people who are full of shit are the people who was calling me names. They didn't know what they were talking about because they never looked into anything. Oh, they claim they look into it, but their actions and the words out their mouth confirms they lied to you. That's all that confirms. Unreal, unbelievable, but that is how dumb we become. And with that, I'm